He looks right, he fires, and it's intercepted! It's intercepted! It is intercepted by the Eagles! What a play! Snap. He's back, he's gonna run. He's in! Touchdown! Jalen Hurts! 20. Westbrook takes it. Looks for running room. Up to the 25, the 30, to the 35-40, 45 midfield, 45-40, 35-40. Brian Westbrook! He's going! He's gone! Touchdown! 15-10! The Eagles win! The Eagles win! The Eagles win!
It's all birds, all the time.
How about them Eagles?
And welcome to another edition of the AAT Birds Inside Swoop. Of course, Johnny and Chip join you tonight. We're going to be talking about a big-time NFC East showdown. The Washington Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles. As you can see in the upper corner there, they're the NFC East standings, and the Eagles and Commanders are 1-2, 7-2, and 7-3. The bottom two teams right now are what they are, not in contention. So this is a big time.
And they're really bottom. That's the best part.
Yeah, they are really bottom. And the thing is, this is basically these two teams, the Washington Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles, are going to be fighting for the division crown. It's what it's going to be, and it's going to be. I don't know what it's up to now, because I know it hasn't been the repeat since 2002, 2003, 03, 04. So it's been 20 years, essentially 21 years, 20 years, 2004 to 24. So it's been still 20 seasons.
It's insane.
Not the same. That's just crazy. It's an absolute crazy stat. Every time,
and it will be again this year. That's the other part.
Yeah,
like we can already bank on it being it this year as well.
Yeah. So it's going to be this year, but so a couple things to get into here, a lot to get into when you take a look at this matchup, because the matchup is tomorrow, Thursday night football. So we are breaking it all down. We got the injury reports, you got all that stuff to go over to talk about. I want to start here is the Philadelphia Eagles have activated Jordan Mailata. So Mailata. So this is the first time since week 1, I believe. I think they said it was week 1 or week 2. I think it's week 1 that the offensive line, maybe week 2, the offensive line has been intact. It's been a long time, and it's great to see because you're going to need it. Washington is tough. You can't overlook them. They're a good squad. They're a solid.
I think Tiger. Yeah, I think Tiger Ace. The thing is, we were kind of concerned that we were going to end up overlooking Dallas. I don't think anybody is overlooking this game. Look, the Eagles have been good for the last couple of years, and they've done what they needed to do. But as far as an in-division game, this is one of the biggest games that I can remember over the last couple of seasons. This game is huge. This is a huge matchup. It is in prime time. This is a monumental game.
A couple things here about this game and about this matchup. When you take a look at the Eagles and Commanders the last couple of years, no matter what the records have been, they've been tough games. Look at 2022. The Eagles are 8-0, undefeated. They lose that Monday night game to I think they're a 4-5 Commanders team or a 4-4 Commanders team at that time. You look at last year, both of those games were to the end. Like, it was a Sam Howell-led Washington Commanders team, and it's at the end of the game they had to win it, and it was a tough game. They were tough games. In this matchup, they said this is the first time I saw a stat. This is the first matchup between these Washington and Philadelphia where both teams are at least 2 games over 500 apiece since 2000.
I believe it. Because there was the run where the Eagles were exceptional, and then there was the run where the Eagles were not good. I can believe it. Look, I tried to tell you at the beginning of the year that the Commanders, really the only thing that they were missing, to me, was a quarterback and a coach, and they went out and they got those things. And so
they also did sign 19 free agents, so
they did. But I'm not. Here's the thing: you're yes and no. The core of that team. Look, they have Austin Eckler that made a big deal when Brian Robinson doesn't play. I mean, this Commanders team was kind of poised to make a move. I still think, though, that them getting the right quarterback in the draft is everything. I mean, it launched their franchise so far, probably 2-3 years ahead of schedule, that Jaden Daniels is playing the way that he is. I think that this is going to be a test for the Commanders. You know, they haven't really super been tested yet, and that's what everyone's going to end up saying. But look, this has been circled on everybody's calendar for a while.
It's going to be a tough matchup. Listen, and you know, the Commanders have played some good teams. They've played the Steelers and the Ravens. So, you know, they've played some tough teams, winning teams. So, you know, they have that under their belt there. They're coming into Philadelphia to play an Eagles team who is playing some great football right now. You know, defense is playing really well. You know, the offense has been, you know, starting to kind of get their stride, doing some things there. You know, it's going to be tough because, you know, when you take a look and you look at what DJ's saying here, you know, Bobby Wagner is playing great for the Commanders.
I actually keep forgetting that Bobby Wagner is on the team. That's actually how good that team is.
He's their leader on defense. He ran Dan Quinn's scheme in Seattle, so he knows the defense. He is their leader. The big thing with the Commanders is, one, Jonathan Allen is on IR. He got hurt. He is their best defensive player in the interior there, defensive tackle. So, you know, him being out has kind of affected their run game a little bit, their run defense. The defense itself, like when you look at pound for pound, like the talent, Eagles are superior talent-wise. But again, you don't play the game on paper. So when you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, and you know, we talked about it, and they've done it since the bye, Chip. It's been a lot of, let's run the ball with Saquon. Let's feed off of that. Let's, you know, Jalen's been getting his runs in there too, and they're not. The thing about it is they're not going up and trying to throw the ball on a team that, like, when you take a look at the Jacksonville game. Now I know the way it ended and everything there, but Jacksonville was a poised for them to be like, okay, well, Jacksonville's pass defense is one of the worst in the game, so let's just throw the ball on them because their run defense is pretty good. The Eagles are able to run the ball and gash the Jaguars pretty good. So it's like, I like this testament of what they're doing is they're pounding the rock. And the one thing about it is this: when you look at last week, Dallas made sure they stopped the run, and they made sure that they were
keyed in on it. Yep, absolutely.
And in the first half, they did a really good job. But when you look at that third quarter, Saquon was getting 6, 7, 8, 9 yards per rush. And then, of course, the fourth quarter, all the backups came in because the Eagles are so far ahead. But like, for them to just keep focusing on it, and I think that's key, and that's huge when you take a look at this Eagles offense, when they're going up against a Washington defense, which they have some good players, but they have some weaknesses here. You know, Marshawn Lattimore is not going to be playing. Their addition.
I was just going to say that.
So
that's a big help for the Eagles, because them going out and getting Marshawn Lattimore at the trade deadline was a very clear signal that they are going to try to be competitive and make a run at it this year.
Why not? When you have a rookie quarterback who's playing well and under that contract, you have opportunity to add big time.
And there's still not a lot of tape on Jaden Daniels, right? We saw this last year with CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud had a phenomenal rookie year, and now he's struggling a little bit. I mean, his receivers are kind of dropping it like flies. There's a little more tape on him, and I can see that being the same case with Jaden Daniels next year. But the other thing with Jaden Daniels that's really worth discussing is how quickly and how accurately he gets rid of the ball, right? That, to me, is going to be the key matchup, because we're going to almost require and need the Philadelphia Eagles to press the receivers at the line, and that is not what Fangio really does.
No, but
which leads them to the short-handed tackling, which means, okay, fine, you complete the pass, but we got to bring them down right away.
You know, Washington's going to have Brian Robinson back. So, you know, their number one running back is going to be back. So that's big for them. I think the one key thing to watch here is their offensive line situation right now. You know, they had 3 of their tackles. So the starting left tackle and backup left tackle and the starting right tackle all are listed as questionable. So what, Andrew Wiley, the right tackle, did not play last week with a shoulder injury. So Trent Scott played. And then I actually believe it was both backup offensive line, because I think Brandon Coleman played. He's the backup left tackle because Cornelius Lucas is the starter. So again, there's a situation to watch whether or not maybe one of those guys doesn't play. So again, that is a situation to watch with them. The Philadelphia Eagles, when you look at the injuries, there really isn't anything. I know Devontae was kind of limited with a hammy, but again, on a short week, you're going to be limited if there's any little thing. A couple of guys that were limited all week, but it's nice to have Jordan Mailata back. But Eagles are going in this game practically healthy. So, that's nice to see, especially when you start to get into the late into the season, you're at week 11 now. So it's going to be interesting to see how this game essentially is huge in regards to the division, because if the Eagles can pull this out, then it's a 4-loss Washington team and you got to win on them already, and you're 8-2. So it's a huge matchup here when you take a look in the division.
And I think so you mentioned the idea of playing with injuries, right? So the Eagles are coming off of a short week, and then they kind of get that elongated week after that. You know what I mean? Like it's always
because
nice.
You have Sunday night after,
because you have Sunday night, and so you really have a little bit of extra time, which is nice. For the Commanders, there's kind of two schools of thought. Either this is the first humongous game of your season, so you play everybody even if they are a little dinged up, because then you have the bye week right after, right? They have that long, so they have this game, then a bye week, and so they have 12 days off. I mean, there's a lot of time to recuperate. Or the other school of thought is kind of like you're saying with Marshawn Lattimore. I'm not saying that he's injured, but just kind of like not rushing anybody. Hey, you know what? We still have to play these guys again. Mm-hmm. Let's get them healthy for the stretch run. Let's give them those extra 12 days. So it's going to be interesting to me to see who plays, who doesn't for Washington, and how important that they kind of deem this game. Like, is this their midseason Super Bowl, or are they kind of like, you know what? This is the one that we're playing in Philly. We may not come away with it, but when we move back to Washington, we'll be fully loaded.
Yeah, because when you take a look at the Commanders' schedule here, so they have the Eagles and then the bye week, and then they play the Cowboys, the Titans, the Saints, Eagles, Falcons, Cowboys. So their schedule is not super tough. I'll never discount divisional games, especially the Washington, Dallas. I know Dallas have struggled. They're going to start to get some guys back, and they're going up against Dan Quinn, who used to be there. So there's a lot there when you take a look at that. So again, you can never discredit that. But they do have some easier games that are lined up for them compared to what the Eagles have left. The Eagles still have to play Dallas again. They have to play the Giants. And the Giants aren't very good. You have to play Washington again, but you have the Rams, you have the Ravens, you have the Steelers. So you have some tough matchups there. So it's going to be tough. It's going to come down to the end of the season to see who comes away with the division. But that's why this game is just so big. And it's pretty good for Thursday Night Football when you take a look at the last 2 weeks.
Usually you get the dud games.
Usually they're like the Jaguars and the Colts on.
And I think that the other important thing about this is, so say that the Eagles are able to win this game, then you are, like you mentioned, 2 games up on the Commanders. So even though the Commanders are going into their bye week, no matter what, you are going to hold first place for at least 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important. That's that momentum build that you start to see in November and December. Like, you work the kinks out of your offense and your defense in the early season. Nobody wins the Super Bowl in week 1, but by November 14th, you start to know where your season's going. Like, if you look at the rest of the division, you're starting to hear of, when is Mike McCarthy going to get fired for Jerry Jones's mistake? When is Daniel Jones going to take his last snap as a New York Giant? I think you're starting to see the preparation for next year, the bottom half of the division, which is an equally dangerous thing when they see who's at the top. Yeah. But for the Eagles and the Commanders, these are 2 teams that are playing for January.
All right, I got a question here for you. So I've been seeing I've been seeing some stuff around, and it's, to me, I think some of it's kind of funny. I've been listening to some people talk on certain shows and everything like that, and my question to you is this: Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels. Who do you trust more?
In what context?
So I guess I put it to this context here. Looking at both of these teams, who would you want going forward in a tough situation, whether it's a must-win game? I'll go with that.
Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, I think, because of the leadership and the abilities that he shows, and I think that Jalen Hurts, with the weapons around him.
I'll pose it this way for you. Who is the best quarterback in the NFC East right now in this division? Who's the best quarterback? It's a long pause there.
It's a very long pause because, all right, so I'm going to go with Jalen Hurts because he's a Super Bowl appearing quarterback. He has led this offense successfully for many years. The weapons are around him. Jaden Daniels is having a very good rookie season, but he hasn't kind of done it consistently yet. Now, ask me again in 2-3 seasons, the answer might be different.
Okay, I have this question for you. Jalen Hurts or CJ Stroud? Who's better? Because listen, CJ Stroud had that fantastic rookie year, had that great year, and this year, 12 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 89 passer rating. He's been good. He's been okay at times.
Right.
He struggled at times, but that's where you take.
Yeah, I mean, he struggled at times with the Texans. Though you're also looking at him being without 1, 2, or 3 of his top receivers at all times. So, in that, Tank Dell, Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs are all not on the field.
Tank Dell played last week.
He's back there. But with Jalen Hurts, look how he did during his game against the Bucs. You take away these quarterback weapons, they all struggle. Overall, again, I'm still going Jalen Hurts until some of these other guys unseat him. Jalen Hurts is still a Super Bowl appearing quarterback.
Okay. So another thing I heard that I thought was, to me, I kind of laughed a little bit. I think Jalen Hurts gets discredited because everyone wants to say, well, look at all the talent he has. That's the reason. That's the only reason he's really good and everything. Name me a quarterback who is successful who didn't have that. Go ahead. Name him.
Tom Brady. He had Rob Gronkowski and a bunch of small white receivers.
Julian Edelman. He was a pretty good receiver.
Pretty good, sure.
He had Randy Moss, Wes Welker. He had plenty of great receivers.
Yes.
Kurt Warner had the greatest show on turf.
Yep.
You had Peyton Manning, had Reggie Wayne. He had Marvin Harrison, Dallas Clark, Edgerrin James. It's just, to me, I just think it's funny because everyone wants to prop up all these other guys and say, all these. I'll give you one thing. Patrick Mahomes had Tyreek Hill and had Travis Kelce, and everyone's like, well, what about now? He's 9-0. He's 9-0 because of his defense.
He is 9-0 because of defense. He is having a down year, and you and I were talking about this, Monday or Tuesday through text message, and you kind of asked me, hey, who the MVP should be, and I said, listen to me. Until the Kansas City Chiefs lose a game, Patrick Mahomes wins this MVP. There is no question in my mind, and I'm not saying that he is the most valuable player, but if you have an undefeated football team, the quarterback is winning the MVP.
Well, that'll end when they play the Bills. So,
and I think that you're right. And then you can have the conversation of, hey, Mahomes is having a down year. Then you can have the conversation about Lamar Jackson and, well, he's got Derrick Henry. And you can have the conversation about Jalen Hurts. Well, he's got Saquon Barkley and A.J. Brown and all. You can have those then bigger conversations. I honestly think that if the Bills do beat the Chiefs, that Josh Allen jumps to the top of the MVP conversation.
Yeah, Josh Allen's having a good season. Lamar
because
Jackson's
when one of his key
year.
receivers is Mac Hollins, Let's really break it down here.
Oh, good old Mac Hollins.
Good, who's made a career for himself, by the way.
No, you're right. He has. He's been a decent player. I'll give you that. I'm not gonna say that at all. But you're correct there. So I have this other thing that I happen to
I
hear.
like this. I like you kind of like trying to dig deep into where my mind space is at. I like this.
Well, no, I've just heard a bunch of stuff, this week because, Eagles playing another top team, a young quarterback who, everybody wants to throw, their panties at because.
All right. You could have just gone with Flowers. You could have gone.
I was going to go Flowers, but I went a different way because, and listen, he's a talented player. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely.
He is. And he has, like I said, he has catapulted this Commanders team probably 2-3 years ahead of schedule.
They had RG3 too, and then he got hurt. So like
they had Kirk Cousins. I mean, hell, they had Carson Wentz, guys.
Oh God. They had a lot of quarterbacks, but we don't have enough
Colt
time
McCoy,
to talk about
Mark
all of them.
Sanchez.
Yeah, how about we don't?
How about we don't?
How about we don't? But
Sam Howell.
My one thing, like everyone talks about Jalen Hurts, and the one thing that I saw about Hurts was he could be the first player in NFL history to have 20 passing touchdowns, 20 rushing touchdowns. And some certain people were talking about it and saying, yeah, but how many of those are tush push touchdowns? Those don't even really count. To me, it's just like it's still. Listen, Jerome Bettis had how many touchdowns did he have? He had 84 touchdowns, rushing touchdowns,
and a bunch of them were goal line touchdowns.
56 of them were from the 1 to 3 yard line. So probably more than half of those were probably from the 1 yard line.
Right. So and this is what I've said to you. Right. So this is what I've said to you, Johnny, is that you can find statistics for any argument you want to make. Right. So if you want to make the argument that those touchdowns aren't valid, that the 2020 club isn't valid, then you would say that, 10 of them, 15 of them, 20 of them, 17 of them, whatever they are,
were from 1 yard out for Jerome.
Right.
Bettis.
So that's kind of my point, right?
Game.
If you want to say that those touchdowns for Jalen Hurts do not count, then you can say, well, it's because X amount of them were tush pushes. Okay. If you want to say that, and then you came back with, well, you can look at the Jerome Bettis stats, and then you go from there. So the point is that when you look at statistics, you can basically make any argument you want looking at statistics because you will find a stat that backs up your statistics. Pass the eyeball test. Is what Jalen is the Philadelphia Eagles team better because Jalen Hurts is our quarterback? And that answer, everybody agrees with. You don't need stats to back that up.
Jalen Hurts has 29 1 yard touchdowns of his 51 rushing touchdowns.
Fantastic. I love that.
It is what it is. It's still a touchdown. So if he were to just hand it off and give it to Saquon instead, it still would count as a touchdown. You still have to get the ball over the plane. The thing is, you still have to get to the 1 yard line. So somehow you're not just given the 1 yard line and go, okay, we'll try and score. Like that's not the way football's played. You have to go from where you start in that drive or wherever it is, work your way down the field and get in position to be able to score that touchdown. And if you really think about it, like, yes, he's had multiple tush push touchdowns the last couple of weeks, but he's also had actual rushing draw touchdowns. Actually, the one where he flipped over in the Jacksonville game, the other one where, he had the offensive lineman Becton leading him and he ran, I think it was like a 4 or 5 yard or maybe 6 yard touchdown.
It's not all. Mekhi Becton as a right guard is a cheat code.
Yeah, he's a massive human being.
He is a gargantuan human being. By the way, and so one more thing about this brotherly shove thing before we kind of, wrap that portion of it up. I think since we were over here, ragging on Nick Sirianni a week or two ago, let's give the guy credit because when Kenny Pickett went into the game and a tush push brotherly shove situation came up,
he barely got it.
He didn't hesitate, though. He goes, you know what?
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
going to run the same play that we do, and you still can't stop it. Yes, obviously, Kenny Pickett is not the same strength level of human as Jalen Hurts. But to me, that was a brilliant decision because it actually gives validity to
I'd
the
rather
fact that
see
Jalen
Gannon
Hurts,
in the game.
right? No, because it actually gives validity to the fact that Jalen Hurts is that amazing of a human. Because, like you said, Kenny Pickett barely got over. Jalen Hurts clears it by 2-3 yards most plays.
Yeah. I want to find. So, listen, we've given our shit to Nick Sirianni. We've talked about it. We've said how certain things need to happen, and we didn't agree with this, and we've basically thrown him under the bus at times.
My
And
favorite thing about Nick Sirianni last week is I didn't even stop to think about him.
no, and listen, we've said what we had to say, but you can't discount his record. We can't discount how many wins he has and what he's done.
Correct.
He's had 3 straight seasons of 7-2, at least 7-2. No other Eagles coach has ever done that. So ever. So, like, yeah, can he be annoying? Can we get on him for certain things? And listen, we've got on many head coaches. And I saw another thing too. I'm going to a lot of stuff that I've seen this week because it's been interesting. But if you say, okay, you get rid of him and he goes somewhere else and succeeds like an a la Andy Reid, where he gets his bearings, learned from certain things and keeps him like he's a young guy. Because I'm going to put it this way though. Let's see, like, we'll see what this season brings. Okay, we'll go there. But I'm very curious to see the Detroit Lions when they lose a Ben Johnson or an Aaron Glenn, their defense and offensive coordinators, because they're most likely
they're gone this season. They are gone this season.
How they replace them, and let's see what happens. Because if the Detroit Lions struggle next year, then what are people going to say? Like, I'm just saying, like, when you have the right guys in place, like after that 2022 season, unfortunately, it was so late in the process, and both of the guys, Steichen and Gannon, got poached. And then you were so late in the process that there weren't quality candidates there to be able to take, because Vic Fangio had already left and signed with Miami, which he most likely would have been the option if Gannon would have told them he was taking the job. They could have gotten Fangio at that point. So they've got the right guys in place right now, as what I'm seeing, the eye tests on the field. You look at Kellen Moore and Jalen Hurts, the cohesiveness that those guys are kind of getting, when they're running the offense here, and what Vic is doing. And just to bring it to you here is total defense. They're second in the NFL.
Yeah.
Second in the NFL.
Zach Bond, defensive player of the week. When was the last time one of our linebackers was
Jeremiah Trotter, 2004, I believe.
Yep, I knew that stat was coming. So for me, just kind of talking about coaches, kind of wrapping up what you're getting at, is there's a bunch to unpack here. So starting off with Vic Fangio, I do not see Vic Fangio going anywhere for the remainder of his career. He will, when he is ready to retire, it will be as the Philadelphia Eagles defensive coordinator. I see that kind of it being the trajectory of his career. Kellen Moore could get a head coaching job, but I think he needs another year or two being a coordinator in a different non-Dallas team. Okay. Nick Sirianni, you compared Nick Sirianni and him potentially moving on at some point to the Andy Reid of it all. Nick Sirianni and Andy Reid are two very, very, very different personality types. Andy Reid is kind of quiet.
I'm just saying,
No, and this is my point that I'm getting at. Andy Reid is kind of this strong, silent, quiet type. So the Philadelphia media he never broke. Nick Sirianni almost needs a Philadelphia type media base in order to do what he does. He needs people to kind of agitate him and rile him up. Like, he could either go here or New York, maybe Dallas.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just
he needs a fan base that's willing to fight him.
I get that. So I saw something on the YouTube page of the Eagles. I think it was what they usually post, like every week or every 2 weeks. I'm gonna find it. So, because it was something that it was Nick Sirianni talking, the unscripted, it's called.
Okay.
So once I find it, then I will play it and we can get that all going here. Let me see. But I think one thing too, when you look at this Eagles defense, when you look at Vic Fangio, and I think one thing I want to bring up too, when I'm taking a look at Fangio and what he's done with this defense, and I have it down on the bottom of the screen there. The Eagles have held 5 straight opponents to under 300 yards total.
And 3 times this season, they have not let in a touchdown.
Yeah. And I think
that's a great stat.
One huge thing with it too is when you really take a look at what they're doing. Now, that was the first time they've done something like that since 2008. Jim Johnson was the defensive coordinator.
Yes.
Like, that is just unreal. Like, it doesn't happen a lot. Like, we've been asking for a defense like this, and it's great.
Yes,
like,
we have.
Having Q and Cooper DeJean, these two guys, it's just, we've asked so much, can you please draft corners? Like, stop trying to draft guys in the middle rounds, the end rounds, stop. Like, let's get guys who are towards the top of the draft.
And get the elite players.
Yeah, go get the football players. And another thing that I saw too, was Vic Fangio in his press conference talking about, Howie, and I guess Zach Bond got brought up, and Howie's taking a look at it when they went over like free agents and stuff like that, when talking to the coaches and certain guys that they see and where they kind of position them, like where they kind of see them going, where they see him playing out. So when they were scouting Zach Bond, it was a special teamer and a backup edge rusher.
Yeah, that's what he was going to be.
And then Vic said once he saw the tape, he said he's an inside backer. And right there, he's an inside back. It shows you the eye for talent, because in Miami, the Miami Dolphins had a linebacker, Andrew Van Ginkel.
Mr. Van Ginkel.
And he was an edge rusher.
He's playing very well.
And they used him inside because they were so injury depleted last year. He worked that into a big contract, a decent, not big, but a decent contract with the Minnesota Vikings.
Oh, he also got injured in Miami in that last year. So like he showed his flashes, got injured. So I think the contract would have been bigger had he played the whole season.
But he's been playing outstanding this year in Brian Flores' defense. So listen, he stepped up and made himself money. And that's why I think the Eagles need to go ahead, and the Eagles did structure Zach Bond's contract as basically a 1-year deal with 2 void years. And to me, what that tells me is when they do something like that, it sets them up to be able to extend the guy, take those void years, make them into, an extension, and go from there. And I expect him to be extended, if not by the end of the year, right away, early in the offseason. So something definitely to keep your eye on, because he is absolutely deserving. And right now, I wouldn't be surprised if he is a first-team All-Pro at inside linebacker.
First-team All-Pro. He should be a Pro Bowl or whatever that kind of means anymore. But most importantly, I would like them to kind of lock him up now. Pay the man. Yeah. Pay the man.
I'm not gonna disagree with you on that. I think they need to pay him because I think he's absolutely worth it. So let me see. I can't find. I don't want to. Let me see him talking here, because I know I had it. Once I find it, we can go and I can put it up here. But I don't want to just post. Yeah, here it is. All right, let me just get this up. Let's share it to the screen, and because I think it's a great video. when you take a listen. All right. So let's.
Right? We got really good players. We got a really good front office and GM, right? And with great talent, and with great coaches, and with
great responsibility,
and with great detail, you can win a lot of games. You can win 10, 11, 12 games. But you can't do special unless we continue to come together as a football team. I ain't into winning 10, 11, 12 games. We've been done that here. We've done that there. I want to do special shit. And you can't do special shit alone.
Okay.
Sorry. I thought that was awesome. I like that. Like, to me, I think like he's speaking, and the thing is, the players love Nick, and they will play for him, and they know his message, and you're not a bad word. But I love that aspect of 10, 11, 12 wins. We've done that. Like,
right. And that's my only takeaway from that is, look, we can win all these regular season games, but it doesn't mean diddly until we hoist the Lombardi. It's the same thing with the Phillies. You can have a great regular season, doesn't mean diddly until you win a World Series. Same thing with the Sixers. You can be the number 1 seed. It does not matter until you hoist whatever they call the NBA title trophy now. That is the big deal. And at least that's the message in the clubhouse. It's for the Eagles. Let's go out and win the whole effing thing.
And I think, too, when you look at this team and you take a look at these guys and the way they're playing for each other, and not just on defense, on offense, too. And you look at these guys in the locker room and the vibes are there. And it's like what was missing at the end of 23, they have it
the
back
hunger,
right
the
now.
hunger and the fight. Yes.
And just the way that I think the biggest thing too is you look at, and I'm just focusing right now on the defense, and you take a look at the defense and how they swarm to the ball, and how, like, case in point, the first play of the Dallas Cowboys, when they throw a little out there to the receiver and CJ Gardner-Johnson comes flying down and nails the guy. And I saw the all 22 of it from the upper angle. He noticed it and he comes flying and makes it out. And I'll give you this. CJ Gardner-Johnson struggled to begin the year. The first half of the season.
Yes, he did.
He struggled and we were on him. He was awful in coverage. He wasn't playing very well. Now it's just, he's playing different. He's playing more relaxed. He's getting turnovers. He's had an interception in 2 straight games now? Not 2 straight games. In 2 out of the last 3 games. So the Cincinnati game and the Dallas game, he's had interceptions. So listen, if he's going to be giving me those takeaways and give me those interceptions, I am all for that, because what that is doing is just giving us extra possessions for the offense and what we've talked about. And they've been doing that the last couple of games. And it just makes their defense look even better when they're able to do that.
Johnny, it boils down to 3 words. Defense wins championships.
Yeah. Listen, the reason Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs have won the last 2 Super Bowls is because of their defense. Like, I know the Eagles scored so many points, but they got a fumble for a touchdown. And that, to me, that was one of the big time factors on why the Chiefs won that game. They got that extra possession, made it into a score. And, defense and special teams will win you. Yeah, defense will win you championships, because you can't just win on offense alone. So
you can get into an offensive shootout. I mean, that's what eventually,
sometimes
like,
does happen.
if you look at the Eagles winning the Super Bowl against the Patriots, I mean, that was an offensive shootout. That was absurd. But what is the play that solidified the game?
I was just going to say, it was the defensive play, the Brandon Graham strip sack
that's it.
Gave the Eagles that extra possession to be able to put it up. That is the main thing.
Even the end of the Super Bowl, which the game ended on a Hail Mary, the defense had to make a play.
Yeah. The only thing that I really want to see here is this. I want to see the Eagles keep, of course, continuing their success on this season. I want to see Jalen Hurts keep putting up the numbers he's putting up, because I want him to shut up a lot of these critics and these people, these doubters, these haters that unfortunately, you're probably still going to have, unless he wins it all. And even if he wins it all, you're going to still
You
hear
are.
something, but it won't really matter at that point. But I just want to keep seeing what he is doing. And I want him to be all pro. I want him to be a Pro Bowler again. I want him to set records. I want him to be the first 2020 player in NFL history. I want to see them go to the playoffs, do great things there, win it all. Of course, we want to see him win it all. We're fans. That's why we like to watch the team. That's why we focus on that. That's why we spend our time on Sundays, Mondays, Thursdays, whenever they play. That's why we do it, so we can see his championship.
And with the Jalen Hurts of it all, I know that, again, you and I had a conversation of ranking who we think the MVP candidates are. And I think in your mind, the Jalen Hurts is a little bit higher up
I have Jalen Hurts at 4.
Okay.
So if you wanted my break, because I didn't give you my breakdown.
No, but I figured you had. Yeah, go ahead.
Lamar, number 1.
Okay.
Josh Allen, number 2.
Yep.
Derrick Henry, 3, and Jalen, 4.
So where yours kind of falls off for me is most valuable player, meaning without that player, the team would not win. You can't have 2 players from the same team anymore. Now, Derrick Henry as Offensive Player of the Year, no brainer. Saquon Barkley as an Offensive Player of the Year, no brainer. But as MVP, it's not going to be a non-quarterback.
And I think that's where the NFL goes wrong, because
I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you. But because of that, like I said, for me, it's Mahomes is 1 because his team is 9-0. Lamar is 2. Josh Allen is 3. And then, you look at the top teams. I know we had a conversation about Jared Goff. Yeah, he threw 5 interceptions. That buries him for you, but they still ended up winning that game. I think that Jalen Hurts' MVP stock is rising very, very quickly, though.
Yeah, I think you're right there.
But I think a game like this with all eyes on him, this is a game that makes or breaks for me whether or not he's in the top 3 for the MVP.
If he has a spectacular game, it's going to catapult him.
I agree.
Top. But
not the top, but the near top,
well,
in the serious conversation.
Yeah. Well, this brings us to our favorite part of the show. And we all know it as the Ulecka Locks.
It's time for the Ulecka Locks of the week. Who's your lock?
And I think we went over it on the post-game recap.
I know I was right.
Yes, you had Pittsburgh beating Washington, so you were correct on that. I had Saquon 150 total yards and 2 touchdowns. I believe only had 78 yards. So
he had 66 yards rushing.
And I think he had 12 yards receiving, so 78. Yeah. You do the math.
I don't like it. I'm a social studies teacher.
Wow. Yeah, well, I guess the math isn't your specialty. There.
No.
So it brings us to this week and the locks.
You have to go first because you were wrong.
Okay, I can go first. That's fine. I'm going to go with, this is going to be Jalen Hurts' 5th straight game with a passing touchdown, a rushing touchdown, and over 100 quarterback rating.
Okay.
Now it brings it over to you.
So I've been looking at the slate of games, and there's some interesting ones. And I was torn between a couple, but I think I'm going to settle on... We're going upset alert here.
Oh, boy.
The Steelers will beat the Ravens.
I don't think that's an upset.
That is absolutely an upset.
They swept the Ravens last year.
All right, well, fine. Well,
look at Lamar's career record versus Steelers.
All right, well, let me give you something else. I thought that was more of an upset.
No.
But alas, I might be mistaken. Well, then the other one that I was looking at is the Chiefs-Bills. And we mentioned that the Chiefs' defense has been very impressive. However, I have Josh Allen having and I don't care, it can be passing and or rushing. Okay. Josh Allen will have 4 touchdowns against the Kansas City Chiefs. 4 total touchdowns.
Whew. That's all right. Okay. Well, now that brings us to this.
Adam says, by the way, his lock is that the Texans beat the Cowboys by more than 2 touchdowns. I don't know which is an easier lock. Apparently my Steelers pick or this one, because the Cowboys are what I cleaned up from my dog about 5 minutes before our show.
Dookie.
And I love every second of it.
I'm going to let you start here with the predictions. I went first on the Ulecka lock. So go ahead and give me your Eagles prediction.
This is a close one. This is not my generous beating by 90 points like I called last week or whatever I said. I have the Eagles winning in a game that is not going to be super relaxing to watch. The Eagles will win 31-28.
Okay. So, again, I think I'm going to kind of stay on par with what you're saying here in terms of it's not going to be an easy win. And everything's not going to be.
I don't want it to be. I mean, I do want it to be, but...
No, I want it to be, but it's just not realistic. This is going to be a tough game. It always is a tough game between these two teams, especially the last handful of seasons. No matter where they were in the standings, it's always a tough. You lowering the volume.
I lowered the volume. It was blaring, dude.
It's exciting. Why not?
Blaring.
What I have here is the Philadelphia Eagles eking out a victory, and they will win 27-24. So.
Adam apparently thinks he's going to enjoy it a lot more. 31-17 Eagles.
I'll absolutely love that, but
I'm here for that.
I am here for that. But it was a fun show, talking a little bit Eagles, Commanders. A post-game recap. We'll probably do something maybe beginning. Maybe we'll just do it on Sunday.
It won't be Friday. I can tell you that because I'll be watching the Tyson Jake Paul fight.
Yeah, and it won't be Saturday.
It won't be Saturday because we're all going to be hanging out at the Lehigh game.
So so it's going to be most likely on Sunday. We'll figure something out. It's not that big of a deal. So we'll figure something out to get to recap the game there. But yeah, it's going to be a fun one. Again, thanks for everyone for joining us. Make sure you're following all our socials down at the bottom there on X, on Instagram, on YouTube. We're also on TikTok, so make sure you add that. I should probably add a box on the bottom for that too, just to make sure.
A TikTok box.
A TikTok box, but so it's going to be a fun one. Enjoy it, everyone. And the way we always end it is
Go Birds.
Go Birds.
This is Matt Ware. Hey, for all the Eagle content you need, go follow All About the Birds. They do a damn thing. Check them out.
Hey, Eagles fans, I may be in Tampa, but I know where to find the best Eagles content out there. Check out my friends at All About the Birds.
Philadelphia, what's up? This your boy Freddie Mitchell, a.k.a. Fred X. It's all about the bird.
All birds all the time. All birds all the time.
All About the Birds provides you with weekly analysis, game recaps, informative interviews, and it's all birds all the time.